Excited.
Well, we've
Excited
also
to talk about this.
We've learned so many things too. Like we've been at this game of life in such a aware and efforted and pivoting and evolving and changing, like on the inside.
Yes.
You know, as well as, you know, we'll talk about the outside. But I was like, all right, let's just go back to Charlie's Angels for a second.
By the way, I was thinking about it on the way over here, going, oh my gosh, it's been
23 years since we filmed it.
How crazy is that? Doesn't it feel in some ways like a lifetime and also
yesterday.
like a flash?
Yes. The scene with you in the bikini was, I mean...
Oh my God.
I mean, I will never forget the phenomenon of that.
All I remember is begging him not to shoot my butt. I don't know why that was my obsession. And almost, you know, how we can compartmentalize. Like completely compartmentalize. I was just focused on what was in front of me. Like, okay, I've just got to do this. I mean, you know, he called me to start shooting 3.5 weeks. So I had
McG, the director?
Yes, and I had no time to think about what I looked like, which was almost better.
By the way, no one can do in 3 weeks what you show up with, so you are clearly good to go. Like, there's no magic wand that gets you to that in 3 weeks. I've done a 3-week diet. I didn't end up there.
I think I wasn't prepared for the focus that happened from it. I had no idea the amplification, ironically, that was specifically tied to my age. Like it was tied, like, that
Were you 40 then?
I turned 40 when we were shooting the movie.
Okay, how did you handle public life? Did you ever tell yourself, like, I'm not a public figure, or did you tell yourself you were a public figure? Could you ever step away from it, or was it always so inundating that you had no ability? What was it for you?
I mean, I think part of moving to Idaho, which was really to kind of ground and keep life more simple and to keep a perspective of, and maybe even create some separation between the two, but keeping your perspective of what's important and that who you really are has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
Who you really are.
Did you have that with you along the way? Did you then want to claim it and grab it? Like, I started so young, and so did you in so many ways. But being with you on Charlie's Angels was another level for me of a door being opened of how crazy the attention was. And is it true that your daughters, Tallulah, Scout, Rumor, discussed, like, going out in a bikini? Like, did you talk about it?
I mean, they were, I had taken a break only to be with them.
Which I did too. I stopped when I had kids.
I stopped and was just with them until they finally were like, you have to do this movie. We loved the first one. You have to do this movie. And please, aren't you going to ever work again?
Which is, I think, for me, is a telltale sign of I wanted to get to the place where my kids were like, you can go back out there
and do your thing.
And I waited until I got that green light from them. I really did.
Think there was a part where I realized that being with them, it was never a question. I needed to be with them. My life was going through a transition with my marriage, and that they needed me home. And then I also realized that I was cheating them out of getting the full expression of who I was by not working. And that would be an important part of modeling, like, the scope of life. There's also a part where I realized that when you are a working parent, because I don't want to just say moms, but in particular for a mom, you're always juggling, and something is always getting slightly cheated. And at that moment, I just knew that I couldn't I couldn't make them anything less than the ultimate priority.
You and your girls seem to have such an incredible bond, such a strong relationship, such a healthy, I've started to think in terms of what is it to be female and a woman, and I'm starting to become in this place where I find that I'm approaching life as this is a non-negotiable. I am as strong and worthy as any other human being on the planet when it comes to pay, when it comes to empowerment, when it comes to rights. These are all being questioned right now. And I've had a life where, we've been in a job where I think men and women are compared to each other in the pay department, in the importance department. And it's a rough conversation, but it's one that I never had a chip on my shoulder about. I was never an angry female. I loved men. I wanted to be sisters with all women. And I didn't want to put anyone down while I found my own worth. And I think that you have demonstrated a life where you have been so strong a lot of the time and such a strong woman. And you've been able to do things that both a woman and a man can do, but you've never lost your femininity along the way. It's such a testament. You're a mother, you're a powerhouse, you're the greatest talent, the biggest force. You're such a badass. You're so cool and sexy and beautiful and interesting. And you also made very important strides for women in Hollywood. You were the first woman to ever be paid $12 million. It was a first. And that was a big, big statement. How did that feel for you? Did that feel like a moniker? Did it come with stuff? What was that like to be the first woman to be paid that way?
Just in the same way that you were just describing, like I never felt like I wasn't in a battle for it. Hi, you. I wasn't in a battle for it. It was like a feeling of, as we were in the negotiations, it just felt like, why not? Why shouldn't I? And so when it was put on the table, it was just a matter of, just taking a stand. Hi.
How do we find our voices as women right now, too? How do we find our worth and the non-negotiable to feel equal in a way that feels non-disparaging of men, but completely non-negotiable empowerment of women?
I think it really comes down to how I look at life as what other people do or don't do is irrelevant. How we hold it is everything. So if we hold our sense of value, then what we move forward and the reality that we create is going to come from that. If I feel I don't have, and also one doesn't have to lose for the other to win. Like I don't need to be disparaging to men to elevate my own sense and my place and my value. I think that there's been this, in a way, a conditioning that we've a collective consciousness, for lack of a better word, that we've bought into, right? That like women are less than men. And while that is a part of the circumstance, it's what we've bought into.
Okay, hold that thought because we have so much more with Demi Moore when we come back.